and I told them what I saw on TikTok.
This is not my first time covering this about the Yamasee tribe. Let me get you to understand. Just because they're not federally recognized does not mean that they are non-existent. What it is called being unintelligent at this point. The lack of understanding that some tribes choose to be controlled by two entities, the federal and state. I'm going to give you a master's education on this because I did get my degree in indigenous studies. And a lot of you all running your mouth and don't know what you're talking about. And for as the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I have access to that as well as the interior in the tribe as well by blood. So I can speak on this as well. But I want you to calculate this in your mind. And when you're calling these telephone numbers, everybody in the U.S. has the access to it. The question is, do the person on the other end of the agents, are they extremely educated about every tribe? No. They know everything. Sometimes you get someone that is intelligent and sometimes you don't. Yes, sometimes you get somebody with limited information or they just going by what they have before them because they're just employees. They're not the tribe, okay? So let me get you to understand this. A lack of federal recognition does not stop a group from being a tribe in a cultural or historical sense, but it drastically impacts their legal and political status in the United States. Two separate entities. Let me break it down. It's three separate entities. And when you calculate it in your mind, it makes you all sound ignorant out here. I've said this before. There's a federal sovereignty, there's a state sovereignty, and there's a tribal sovereignty. So, and then there's the others that nobody talk about because they're not under a government entities. They're not being controlled. They're not, what you want to say, they're not being babysitted. They're not being taken care of by other entities from other sources. So we need to make that clarification. Does not make another tribe less than because they decide to stay within their culture and not link themselves to an entity that has overtaken them, that has did everything under the sun that is not right. Now, cultural and historical tribes is a group that has maintained a shared history, a community, cultural practices, and a system of internal governance. It is considered a tribe in a anthropological or sociological sense, regardless of what the government says. So for you to go on here and try to discredit something that you don't have any knowledge behind, a lot of these small sister tribes are sister tribes to, like Muskogee Creek indigenous people are sister tribes to Seminole. Just like we're sister tribes to Yamasee. It's a lot of small entities. And if you go in my indigenous educational tutorial favorites, it'll give you all the list of those tribes that no one knows about because they're not government tied. And they exist. Just because you don't know about them does not mean that they don't exist. The self-identity is groups like the Yamasee who are not federally recognized still possesses tribal structures, maintain traditions, identify themselves as a continuing nation. Sovereignty therein, many of these groups assess that their sovereignty is inherent, existing from time immemorial, and not a gift from the United States of a government. And I'm going to say this, even though I am tribe by blood, I am a ward of the federal government, which then lets you know they have overtaken 474 tribes. They have access and control over them. Yes, they have their own sovereignties, but they have their own government entities, but they still have other people. They're still managing them, which is the federal and depending on the state. Some tribes go through the state. Some go through the federal. See, some people are not connected with the federal, but they connected with the state as being a tribal nation. But you also have to respect those that are untouched by any government entities. And to think that you can go call the Bureau of Indian Affairs like you the only one got that number, that is not the answer. That was wrong information. I hate that people try so much to try and put their hate within something to educate people that are not knowledgeable about what's reality. That tribe been around for a while. Just because you don't know about it and just because they're not federally recognized does not mean that they're not a tribe. The legal political tribe, in the eyes of the United States federal government, the term Indian tribe refers to an entity with which it maintains government to government relationship. So it ain't tribe to tribe relationship. They let you know they're colonized. All 574 and counting that register under the federal or state are colonized. You can't get around that. So stop trying to make people that's not part of that system feel like they're not indigenous or they're not a tribe. You are incorrect and old and too wrong to be giving out wrong information. I'm just saying, they're managing IAs, whether you want to realize it or not. And even though we're members, we have people that's above us. We have our tribal leaders and people that's in office that's under our own tribe. We have our own principal chief, our second chief, depending on what tribe. However the entity is broken down. That's a structure within the tribal lands by itself. But at the end of the day, they still go and meet with the United States concerning tribal things, because tribes do go get access to fundings. A lot of time people are hollering, you just want to join because this. No. Those people that's in there recognized, they're getting access to funds to federal and other state agencies. It's not just a tribe by itself. So we want to understand that. They're federal recognized tribes, a sovereign nation acknowledged by the United States government. The Cherokee Nation, the Navajo Nation, no matter if it's Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, or who, all the other tribes that's under that United States, they're saying that those tribes is accepted under the U.S. government. But it doesn't exclude the non-federal recognized tribes. It's a cultural historical group with no formal political legal relationships within the United States government. And that means that they're pure. They're untouched. They're not colonized. No sovereign immunity. They cannot access the same level of self-governance. No trust relationship. They are generally ineligible for BIA services, health care, housing, and educational funding meant for recognized tribes. They must incorporate as non-profits or other entities. That is how they're set up. They're not like the sovereign. Legal sovereign is the right to govern their own people in territory, exempt from most state laws. Most, not all state laws. Trust relationship, and we can say damn it to hell to that, because they have taken a lot of tribal members' land. They don't have access to it. You can say what you want to. Entitlement to federal services, funding, and the ability to place land into federal trust, creating a reservation. And land in a federal trust does not mean that members always have access to their own land that was automatically allotted. Know the facts before you open up your mouth. If you have your family and if you have not been through anything, you cannot speak on Yamasee or any other Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Navajo. You can't speak on nobody's tribe. Sometimes it's best to sit several seats down and worry about your own family tree. That's the best option. Worry about your own self.